podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another Transfer Daily for EPL Index. So, Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you have a good day, whatever you're doing, and let's get stuck right into what's going on transfer-wise. So, there's plenty of tittle-tattle, gossip, and things brewing. And the key person who comes up in a lot of the gossip columns this morning is Kalvin Phillips. Manchester City and England international, desperate to get some game time, isn't he, with the Euros coming up? And there's a few stories knocking around about him especially. So the Telegraph has some bad news for him in the sense that Newcastle, and due to their accounts, PSR, and obviously everything that's in the news, they will not be making a move for Kalvin Phillips due to his wages. But more importantly, as it says in the article, the loan fee and it not making financial sense for them. So that's the bad news that leads off in the Telegraph. However, there is some good news according to Sky Sports, because according to Sky Sports, Crystal Palace, Everton, struggling to see that one somewhat, West Ham and Juventus are interested in acquiring his services. It's a fascinating one, this one, isn't it? I mean, I've got to be honest, I fully expect him to be pushing, getting a move. Because if you think of the way Pep works, Cole Palmer pushed for it. He was quite happy to see him go. As soon as someone's not happy there, for whatever reason, and he's talked about Kalvin Phillips in the past. Kalvin Phillips wants to play football. Essentially, the Euros around the corner. He needs to play football, really, for his career, doesn't he? He's 28. So one way or another, and it could be some random club in the Premier League. We've not even mentioned that one, surprised me late on as well. Kalvin Phillips is expected to get a move. Quite a few other articles alluding to yesterday. Now, there's a few put out. Bruno Guimaraes was in Paris just enjoying some family time. That was not anything different or more sinister in that regard. However, TalkSport and a few others are leading off with the fact that Bruno Guimaraes is a real target for Paris Saint-Germain, which is fully believable. Newcastle will likely need to sell a player. I mean, other things to note that Rio Ferdinand mentioned in his 5 podcasts, he suggested that Arsenal should be all over Isaac. The key thing to point out here is nothing's getting done in January. Despite Newcastle's position, nothing will happen right now. However, clubs will be sniffing around in the summer and seeing if Newcastle are ripe for the picking for certain players. So that is definitely one to keep an eye on as we move towards the summer months. Quite a few other articles going around as well, mainly involving United and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So it's in the Standard, it's been referenced in Team Talk and a few others, that Sir Jim Ratcliffe very much has a plan in short and long term. So short term, clear the decks. We're seeing with the likes of Hannibal, Sancho, all those going out. But longer term, that he is looking for 4 specific positions. So quite a few, an interesting one. Say he's looking for a top-level striker along the lines of Harry Kane's level, which may be easier said than done. A midfielder, a defender, and even a goalkeeper is mentioned. So we're all a bit unsure how transfer things will exactly work, but we all suspect that Eric Ten Hag will not be fully in charge. But the Standard and others all got that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, for the summer specifically, and maybe earlier if he can do it, is looking for 4 specific players. Quite a few others as well. ESPN, the main one, saying that Manchester United and Liverpool are fully aware of Michael Olise's release clause and they're looking to do business. However, ESPN go a bit further with one of their stories. ESPN and Mark Ogden are saying that there's a good chance in the summer that there will be a swap deal, and Manchester United will look to do some sort of swap deal where Aaron Wan-Bissaka returns to Selhurst Park and Olise goes the other way. I think there's been quite a few articles, hasn't there, on Olise, realistically, around his release clause, which everyone's a bit unsure about in the summer, but it'd be a big surprise if the big boys did not come calling. So we're fully expecting that one to happen. Other ones, so the Metro had reported that Chelsea are interested in a short-term deal for Juan Duran, the Villa young Colombian forward. Chelsea have also been linked, as with a few like the Mail, the Express and others, with a short-term deal for a striker. That's important to point out. And the names that keep coming up are Bobby Firmino, the former Liverpool forward, and Karim Benzema, both who are having a bit of a wretched time in Saudi Arabia right now. Interesting, it seems that Chelsea are in the market for a short term, not long term, as Pochettino had confirmed, because people had asked that around Nkunku's injury, but short term, and maybe with finance playing a part as well, it does seem Chelsea are very much in the market for a forward if there is a suitable one that becomes available. So it is an interesting one to keep an eye on.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
And the other thing that's mentioned of Chelsea, that very much they are saying that with the new deal for Ian Maatsen, who went on loan to Dortmund, they expect the release clause to be paid in full. So that release clause increased to £35 million. So quite a few papers have mentioned that. And then one's, interestingly, for a player at Liverpool who not many have talked about, but the Mail and the Express mentioned that Liverpool backup goalkeeper Quaveen Kelleher, so the Irish international, has a lot of interest in him. So Mail and Express both mentioned that Celtic specifically and Brendan Rodgers hold a high interest in the player, but the transfer fee could be interesting. However, the Mail also mentions 3 other Premier League clubs. So Brentford, Brighton and Wolves are all likely to be in competition that way for the player. And then another United player in Ratcliffe clearing the decks that's one to sound out, and this is mentioned in the Standard. It was mentioned a few other days ago, very much that Brentford are seriously looking in to that loan move for Sergio Reguilon. And obviously United did send him back to Spurs, as we know that. That's why we're referencing the clearing the decks. However, there's no real interest in him at Spurs, isn't there? They got Destiny Udogie doing the business there. So Reguilon is fully expected to, how should we put it, spin around and head out the exit door that way. The other thing to note, people, is there will be articles galore. I think the thing I've not mentioned, but it is linked to transfer talks, it probably kills their business, is that Everton and Forest did naturally release their statements around the PSR and confirm the fact they had been charged by the Premier League with a breach of those regulations. Forest very much saying they'll be open, they'll work, they'll comply. Look forward to the findings. I'm not sure that's the right phrase, but it's what they said. Everton going a different tack about how it's sort of unfair, their thoughts on it, previous calculate, all those types of things. You can read the statements yourselves if you really want to dig into it. However, there will be stories galore. The big thing that is coming out, which is in a few stories, is Everton's charges, or most recent charges, will not be heard until the appeal for their previous ones is confirmed. And quite a few articles are stating this. Everton are not appealing the overall charge. They admit it, or they pled guilty in the, not say Premier League court or whatever the phrase is, but they did plead guilty to those charges. What they are appealing is the penalty that was awarded, i.e. the 10-point deduction. They are saying that is too severe. However, this latest charge cannot be heard until the appeal, which is expected, as quite a few articles put it, in February time, is ratified, heard, gone through, however you wish to put it in that regard. So, yeah, there is a lot going on in that space. But those are the key things to sort of point out, people, in that regard, that a lot of clubs are looking quietly. Now, there's a few interesting articles, and this is generalizing a bit, but it's important to link them all together, I think. There's a few articles stating that people are waiting a bit, and what they're waiting for is they're sniffing the other clubs' desperation in the Premier League, i.e., with the PSR, the way clubs are waiting, that they're expecting the ones who are struggling with the regulation, shall we say, or close to the line in terms of the 105 million over the 3 years. So quite a few articles link how the bigger boys, or the more financially prudent clubs, is probably right to say, are just waiting to the end where they have a feeling that those clubs may be like, we need to sell, or we need to balance our books, as it was put, so to speak. So they think there's possibly a bargain to have or be had late on. So quite a few articles, a couple in the sort of the Mail, and there's more opinion pieces in the broadsheets as well. But it is important to point out, just referencing that there may well be moves later on in the window, and later on because those clubs who are straying close to the line, let's put it that way, may need to just free up some cash, as it were. So this could even be a bit of an eye of the storm, but there's quite a few expecting maybe some business to be done very late, which would give Sky Sports to everyone their deadline day, but we will have to see. And that, ladies and gents, that was another Transfer Daily for EPL Index.
Sports Social Podcast Network.